Hello and welcome to Culture Over Coffee, a podcast focused on improving company culture and fostering employee engagement. Every week we chat with experts and thought leaders about the latest information and proven practices you can use to reduce regrettable turnover, increase productivity on your team, and retain key customers. So pour a cup of your favorite brew and join us. I'm your host, Beth Sunshine, SVP at Up Your Culture and the Center for Sales Strategy. In this episode, we're discussing how having and communicating a shared vision can be instrumental in driving engagement throughout your organization. Lucky for us, Kristin Cantrell, owner and operator at Seven Mountains Media, is here to break down how she fosters a shared vision with her team. Kristin has great insights to offer, like how involving your people in the development of your organization's vision can better ensure their level of buy-in, why communicating your company's vision is key, but demonstrating that vision is even more crucial. And finally, why it always pays for leaders to put their boots on and pitch in to help. So welcome, Kristin. I am thrilled to have you join the podcast today.
Me too. Hi, Beth.
Hi. Today, we're going to be talking about how leaders drive engagement with a shared vision. And as a well-respected owner-operator, I'm just really excited to get your take on this. So thank you for joining me. And we're going to have a good time. You ready to get started?
I am.
All right. So before we get into the actual topic that I asked you to talk with me about today, I do always love to start with a quick brain jolt, hard word to say.
Okay.
So I want you just to envision the very best company culture you can think of and tell me what 3 to 5 words would you use to describe that ideal culture?
Well, 2 words that go together.
Okay.
Psychologically safe. I like people to have psychological safety in their lives, let alone in the workplace. So that's a big one for me. People need to feel heard. They need to feel like they're safe expressing their opinion without recrimination or whatever, and that they're valued because they are. So psychological safety, that's 2 words. And then I need more words, right? I would say purpose-filled. That's another 2-word or 1 word. I like people to feel like they're doing the best job they can do, that they're good at their job, and that it fulfills a personal mission and purpose for them, not only at work, but for them personally. So I guess I would say humanity focused.
I love that.
To me is the perfect work culture. And, beyond that, if I could get it to the point, like if it was utopia and everything was wonderful, I would have no rules. In my first management job, I didn't have an employee handbook. And my parents would call me and they would say, well, what's in your company handbook? I'm like, I don't have one. When people need to take off, I say, take off. When you need to go to a doctor's appointment, go to a doctor's appointment. Oh, you've got a rough time with it? Okay, well, we need to do this and that. Just work with human beings. It's a litigious world we're in, so we're not in utopia, but I wish I could be that way still.
Yeah, and I understand your thinking. I mean, you're right. It is a litigious world, which is why we can't do that. But everything you said up until then, it makes so much sense. You were talking about psychological safety, where people can speak up and they're heard, and there's no secrets. You're aware of the bigger picture, and people being purpose-filled and having a mission and feeling part of something. I loved hearing all of that. And then ending with your handbook comment, I suppose if you had all of those things in place, if people really had a purpose, they knew why they were there, what they were there to do, they were engaged, sleeves rolled up, and they could share and ask questions with no fear, you really wouldn't need that handbook as much, would you?
That's right. And it's multiple books have been written on it, whether it's something like Drive or The Tipping Point or something like that. There are so many instances where we get in the way of our most effective, productive people by putting them in a box. And so I've always been trying to remove the box that they think they're in, because it takes a long time for people to adjust to me. They're like, nobody's ever asked me that before. You are one weird girl. Okay, whatever. I'm like, well, it's an acquired taste. I will grant you that, but we like it. So
I think I would like it too. Very cool. All right. So digging into our conversation a bit more into the topic of the day. So in preparing for our chat, I spent a little time on your LinkedIn. I hope you don't think I'm a stalker. I do a lot of research, though. I like to know who I'm talking to and what their expertise is in. And I couldn't help but noticing something that one of your managers wrote about you related to your innate ability to create a shared mission. So I did write his quote down, and I do have it on a Post-it note right here on my screen. So here's what he said. He said, like a telephoto lens, she sees things in the far distance, brings them into clarity, and then shares her vision with others. And I just got goosebumps reading that. It's a great, huge compliment. It's right there on your LinkedIn. You can look at it when you need to feel good, along with a lot of other positive comments. But I thought, what a great way to describe exactly what we're talking about today. So with that understanding that you have that ability, why do you think it's so important to set a clear vision and to share that vision with other people?
Well, I'm sure it's true in any industry, but certainly in ours, it's a hard job. Like, I don't care if they're on air or if they're in sales, just the pace of which the technology is changing and how we're pushing them to be like great traditional radio broadcasters, but on every platform they can be on, and everywhere that makes sense, and creating content on a more regular, on an everyday basis, not just phoning it in. It takes a while for people to get used to that.
Yeah.
It certainly does. So when we go into a market, when we acquire a market, we go in and we have one-on-one meetings with every full-timer on staff and every part-timer that wants one, if they want one. And we call it the dream talk, like, where is your, what do you dream of doing? What fulfills you? What gives you energy? Where did you start? What do you want to do next? And they really have no idea how to answer that question. I don't care if they're 25 or they're 55 or they're 75. And we have employees in all those ranges. They'll say to me, no one's ever asked me that question before. Like, I work for you. I'll do whatever you want me to do. I'm like, that's not what I asked. Wow. So that's the first step in defining the vision of the company and their place in it. So we consider that to be a critical step, so they understand you're part of the process here. This isn't like top down. Like, if you're waiting for that, you're not going to fit in well here. Like, we're looking for people to say, hey, here's a problem. Hey, here's 5 different ways maybe we could fix it. What do you think? So in putting that vision across, we can't just do it with that one meeting. Like, I just got back from one of our markets in New York from last week. I spent the whole week. I rode with every salesperson. I sat with every program director, and I had what I call mindset meetings. Where's your head at? I'll tell you where I think your head is at. That's the telephoto lens, I guess. And then if there's a gap between those two, let's figure out how we can make that better. Like, if I think you're satisfied and you're not, that's a problem. If you think you're satisfied and I don't think you are, that's a problem, right? It goes both ways. And then just doing that in market, in person, constant coaching, inspection, training, feedback. Like, we don't just set it and forget it.
Yeah.
We don't do it with people. We don't do it with radio stations. We don't do it with company initiatives, but we're moving so fast. The hardest part is trying to be everywhere at once. And obviously that's not possible. And video only goes so far. Like, it just does. It's just not the same. You can't read the room the same. You can't read the body language the same,
Yeah.
I love everybody on their camera. Right, so who knows? But I really, and I say this to them when I'm in market, and I say it all the time, we want to model the behavior we expect. So if I expect you to lead it a certain way and you need to talk to your people a certain way, I'm going to treat you with that same level of respect, and I expect that in return. If I think the sales process should be XYZ, then I'm going to show you why. I'm going to go out and do it with you. And if it's a new product, I'm going to do it first before I ask someone else to do it. So they can't say, you have no idea what it's like out there. I'm like, yes, I do. Yes, I do. I was on a sales call this morning. So
I love that.
I really believe in working the front line in every aspect of what we do and trying to get better at it every day. And it keeps changing every day. So it's a constantly moving target.
Definitely inherent to the industry that you are involved in. I mean, I don't think it's ever been stagnant. Even when it was less rapid change, it was always changing. I love the way you've really zeroed in on the importance of the individual, the importance of spending time coaching people, demonstrating, teaching, also listening, hearing about their wants, what they envision for their career, what's next, and also making sure you're on the same page as far as, do you see their mindset being how they see their mindset? I love how you took that very granular, every single person counts.
Yes.
Question for you. So sometimes, as a leader, you have an organization and you have a vision and you know where you're going, whether it's more acquisitions, whether it's, changing areas of focus, but sort of where you're steering the ship, and not every passenger or crew member knows that same information until obviously you communicate it. So how do you recommend that leaders effectively communicate those really big things, like change happening, where I see us in the next 3 years, where I see us in the next 5 years? How do leaders communicate those things with employees in a way so that everyone feels informed and feels engaged, feels, even passionate?
That's a tall order. Yeah. That's a tall order. I can't tell you that I've been very good at it because the change has been happening so quickly. 9 years ago, we had 6 radio stations or 4 in Kentucky. And now we have over 150 signals in 3 states.
Right.
In a very short period of time.
Right.
So, and some during a pandemic, which that was the hardest part. I actually, it got to July of 2020 and we had just acquired 2 markets right before the pandemic. So they hadn't had any cultural onboarding or whatever you want to call it. They hadn't had any vitamin K. That's what I call it. We hadn't had the chance to do that yet. So they didn't know I'm this, and they're seeing me on the video. They're like, yeah, right. She's not like that every day. I'm like, well, yeah, this is how I am every day. But it came about July and I was like, I got to get back up there. But my husband told me, he said, until this thing's over, like, you're not leaving the living room. Like, if you go down, we all go down. So you will be up in here. This is I was in this little space for all the pandemic. But in July, I was like, okay, so I need to get, like, they're suffering. It was hard. And most of our other markets that were part of our culture, we had already cried and laughed together. We had worked through things. There was a ton of issues to deal with, obviously, but they were more comfortable talking to us at that point and really opening up, going, I'm having a hard time dealing with this, with my kids in school at home and I'm trying to work, for example, right? Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, I'm a mom. I get it. Like, that would be impossible. I can't even, my son was up there, came home from spring break at college and never left. So I said, okay, so I can't go into a hotel and I can't go into a restaurant and I can't go into the radio stations, but I could go to a park, right? And he said, well, yeah. And I said, okay, let's rent an RV.
Did you do this?
Oh, yeah. We went and at the same time, I was doing the traffic for our locations here in Kentucky. because our traffic director went on maternity leave on March 12th, 2020.
Oh my gosh.
So then I did traffic for the next year and a half. So I'm doing traffic in the back of the RV, and my husband's driving it, and then we drive into town, and I'd get out and do a meeting at the park, and thank you, and I'll be back, and thank you for working hard, and here's how to handle this objection, and this objection, and this objection, and here's an initiative we've created for local businesses to help them, and blah, 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 blah. So, you know, you just have to get in it. I mean, I don't know how else to communicate it more. I know I should do a newsletter, and I should do a monthly video message, and I should put that on LinkedIn. And there's all those things I should do, you know, as a leader of a communications company. But I'll get around to it. I will do it. I'm doing this with you.
That's right, you are. Bravo. I love
that. If I could just show up, and you'll make it look good. So I'm not worried about that.
Yeah. I love your philosophy. Just get in it. I mean, that's what I'm really taking away from that. Like, how do you share a vision? How do you communicate it? You're going to just have to figure it out. You just have to get
show
in
them,
it.
not tell them.
Different. Yeah. Show them, don't tell them. Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that story. I can just envision you in the RV doing traffic, jumping out at the park, doing the rally. Here's the company you now work with. Welcome. Here's who I am. Vision. Okay, bye. I love it. That's great. That's somebody who really cares about the people in her organization.
Yeah.
Very, very neat. All right. So moving on to my next question. How do you create a sense of ownership, a sense of personal connection to whatever the shared vision is among employees, so that everyone feels just like you described that perfect culture in the beginning? Everyone feels purposeful and like they know why they're there. How do you create that sense of ownership in that? And then what benefits have you observed as a result?
Well, the big thing is helping them find their voice, you know, because I mean, there's a different thing about voicing your comments and your concerns and nobody that can help you, which is normally what happens, right? They get they go, oh, Kristin, that sounds great, blah, 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 blah. And then they'll leave the meeting and go, that's never going to work because of blah, 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 right? Yeah. So I've gotten really good at calling them out before. I'm like, okay, I know you don't agree with everything I'm saying. Like, come on. And if I know them personally enough, I can say, I bet you're thinking this is not the right time because we don't have the cash flow right now to do this particular project. For example, like we're doing a leadership summit for all of our managers and middle managers, program directors, sales managers, traffic directors, all that in September. And it's expensive, right? Bringing in a trainer and doing all this stuff, but it's all about company culture. Like, so they understand how to lead. It's not how to sell radio. It's not how to program music. It's how to lead your people to their best selves. So that's what I want you to do. And one of the members of the team said, well, you know, that's all good and dandy, but, you know, they're just going to leave. I've seen this before at XYZ company and XYZ company. And then they just go back and do it the way they've always done it. And I was like, well, did the CEO of XYZ and ABC companies go back in and check on them in their market and talk to them? How's it going? So we were going to do this. Well, no. I was like, well, that's the difference. So yeah, I do believe that I'm going to set the expectations and they're going to follow them to the best of their ability. And they're not perfect. They'll fall down and they'll get back up and they'll learn, you know, but we can't afford to put that on the back burner. We've got to put that on the front burner. So like just even within our leadership team, that's something that was like, how am I going to bring them into the vision of what I want to do? And then on every market visit after that, I said, you see, if we'd already had this class, we wouldn't have had to deal with this problem right here, this stupid little problem that they just did out of ignorance or their lack of experience or, you know, whatever, their biases, their whatever they have.
Yeah. I love your focus on the human part of the job, the people leadership, not radio, not programming, I mean, those are all skills people need to develop in their jobs, but just the actual people leadership part of it. I love that. And the mention of holding them accountable asking how it's going not only does that ensure that it sticks a little bit better, but it shows that you care. And I think that's just sort of a pervasive message across everything you've shared so far. Is a big part of creating a shared mission is actually caring and demonstrating that.
Yeah.
So,
and when we roll out something new, like when we first started selling digital, for example, I sat through all the training with them from one end to the other. And it's mind numbing. And I would love to go, you know what? I don't need to deal with that, but I do need to deal with that, because if I'm going to help them solve problems, I need to understand everything that they're working with, or not, as the case may be. And when people come around to it, they start to really like it. Some adapt to the culture very quickly, and some are more of a wait and see. You know, like, let's see if she really believes this, and if I can really talk to her and say things, and she's not going to just fire me, you know, because I don't agree with her, or, you know, she's going to have someone else come in and fire me because I don't agree with her. You know,
you have to earn that trust.
We had one just recently where we were like, okay, we had just bought 2 properties, and we had said, okay, we're gonna put this on this signal and this on this signal. And we hired a manager, and we got a manager in there, and the staff, we were hiring staff, and we were about to launch both of the stations. And they called and they said, we have a proposal for you. We really want to go, we think it should go classic country instead of country. And here's why. And they laid it out, and I was like, I completely see what they're saying, and I agree. They made the right call. So we have to pause and rebuild what we're going to do so we can launch it correctly. But they knew they were heard, and they had impact because they did influence our decision of what we were going to do moving forward. And that's that communicates the vision faster than anything else, are those get in it moments.
Yep.
And they know they're heard, and we don't just go, oh, okay, yeah, that was never mind. Like, no, that's valid. They got a valid point.
Well, and that's really psychological safety, what, you know, we were talking about before, at its best, where they, you know, it takes real trust and even courage to push back in that way. And not only did you value what they had to say, and did you let them know they were heard, but you truly opened your mind, and they went in a different direction. When psychological safety like that exists, the company's stronger. I mean, we see revenue increases, they're more profitable, because everyone's bringing their best thinking to it, and there's no fear of humiliation or, you know, punishment for that.
Right. Well, in order for our company to be successful, because you asked me, like, how does that affect productivity? In order for our company to be successful, we have to take risks, right? That's the world we're in. And so how can we do that if all of our employees are risk averse?
Right. Nearly impossible.
It's impossible. It's impossible. If you're asking them to take the hill, you know, you got to be on the horse and charging the thing and go, and we're taking the hill, you know, and we don't win every time, but we win more often than not. So we're very fortunate.
Good. So we both are on the exact same page as far as how important it is for employees to have a clear understanding of the vision, to have the platform to be able to share their thinking. We've talked a lot about change, rapid change in the industry, more rapid change probably within your own company than most. Beyond the things we've talked about, are there any other strategies that you believe are especially important in maintaining strong employee engagement?
One of the things that I think has helped from the hiring side, which of course is the most critical first step, right?
Yes, it is.
I used to get, you know, I'd be like, okay, this is this awesome job. Let's write this awesome job description for this awesome job. And then we will find someone that fits all those awesome elements, and they'll be awesome at that awesome job. Right? But how often do you actually get a direct, and we work in small to medium markets. So it's not like they're going to go, I'm moving up to New York City. It's like, no, you're coming to work in Frankfort, Kentucky, or Olean, New York, or Altoona, Pennsylvania, or whatever it is. And we love these markets. We love our market.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I could have gone to a big market a long, long time ago. I have no desire to do that. I want to make impact where I am. And so anyway, I over the years, I've started, I'm interviewing for a certain job, but I'm trying to interview them for what are their strengths and their skill sets, and then building a job around that.
Ah, very interesting. So you have a job open, you identify what you need in that role, but you find somebody who maybe has talents or skills that kind of break the barriers of that role. You're willing to change the role to fit the talent. Is that
right? So, for example, we just did a bunch of round of interviews with some students from several Pennsylvania universities, and many that were involved in the Radio Talent Institute that we have in Bloomsburg. And so we were just doing follow-up interviews with them. And so they're, fresh out of school or a year out of school, right? And we need air personalities all over the place. It is so hard to find air personalities. Unbelievable. And that will move to our towns. It's like they're either born and bred there, or they come for the mission. They come for the culture of what we're doing. So when we build these jobs around an air personality opening, for example, like when we're interviewing them, we find out, ooh, this one also had a minor in videography. Well, we have a creative services unit. So maybe you could, we could involve you and pay you talent to be second shooter on a video shoot or something like that. We just hired one. We needed an air personality in Altoona, Pennsylvania, and she's now going to handle all of our social media management for all of our stations in that cluster, in that market, because most of our program directors are not of the generation that it just falls right out of them. It's a much harder thing. And so we're like, okay, so how can we supplement their skill set, which they have bukus of in radio broadcasting, and she helps them, and they're helping her learn their side of the industry. That's also a great way to bring the multi-generations together, instead of them being, so we had to say things like, you shouldn't be on your phone during a meeting because the older people think you're blowing us off. That's why they look at you that way.
Oh, they're actually researching.
Yeah. So just being able to say that to them where they'll take it and not cry. Yeah. I sort of have a thing for that. So,
I love it. And what a great way to think that getting employee engagement right really starts by hiring the right people, understanding their strengths, and then giving them the opportunity to use their strengths so that they can shine. Whenever we're in a role where we're shining, where we're doing the things that make us feel strong every day, we're engaged. So what a smart connection you made, and thank you for sharing that.
Well, and some people, we joke, there are certain employees in our company that have been with us maybe from the very beginning, but they're on job 8.0 or 9.0.
Yep.
Because we keep tweaking and fine tuning very often because they self-identify, ooh, I see we need to do that. I'd really like to do this. What could I drop, and what could we move on to somebody else, and I could do that, and what would that look like? So it never ends.
No. And that's what human resources really is all about, is identifying what resources your humans bring and aligning them to what you need. And that can be shifting all the time. Great.
Yeah.
All right, last question. If you could recommend one piece of advice for other company leaders who are listening today to ensure that their organization's shared vision really resonates with their people, what would that piece of advice be?
Get your ego in check and get out in front.
Kind of get in it, right? That would be the theme for the whole thing. Get in it. Okay, I like it.
Get in there.
Get your ego in check. I like it. Great advice. Thank you, Kristin, for the advice, the insight. You bring a lot of experience and know-how to this, and I really appreciate you spending time with me today, talking a little culture over coffee. Now, you've shared a lot of really good information and ideas relating to driving engagement, certainly with a strong vision, but also you've talked a lot about just individualized management and listening to your people. I think our listeners will probably find something really valuable in every piece of it. So for those listening, I'd love to add your LinkedIn information to the show notes. Is that okay?
Of course. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. I think people want to connect with you, so I want to give them that opportunity. And then I'm also going to add a link that our listeners can use to grade their company culture. So we have an interactive quiz. It takes just a few minutes, but it gives a really good sense of the current health of the culture, as well as recommendations that can help. And a lot of the things that quiz measures are things you brought up today. So I think that would be a really nice next step for people. Yeah. So thank you, Kristin, for joining me. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Thanks so much for spending time with us on Culture Over Coffee. If you've enjoyed the conversation, be sure to subscribe and join us for every episode. For more helpful information on the topics of company culture and employee engagement, visit us at upyourculture.com. Enjoy the journey as you increase engagement and up your culture.